Hi friends, my name is Akhil Ahmed, and in this particular video I'm going to show you how to use the aggregate transformation in SSIS to perform the aggregate operations on some particular data. So in this particular example I'm going to use the AdventureWorks 2014 database, and we will be using the sales.salesperson table. And so this particular table has some columns which we can use to aggregate our data. So for example, we have a bonus column. So for example, for bonus we can get the minimum value from these records, and then we have a commission PCT column. So I want to sum up all the data from this particular field and get the sum of the data. So I want to do sum for this particular field, and for example for sales YTD I want to do a average of all the data. So I want to get the average from this particular column, and then for the sales last year I want to get the maximum value from this particular column. Okay, so all these things we can do in a single task, that is aggregate transformation in SSIS. You might be thinking that we can get the values like minimum, sum, average and maximum, all aggregate values from the SQL query itself. You can write a SQL query and you can get these values. Then you might be thinking that why are you going to use the aggregate transformation if we can do the same thing from the SQL query itself. Of course you can do the same thing from the SQL query itself, but think of a scenario where your source data is not the SQL server, but your source data is the CSV file. So if your data, or suppose if this data is coming from a CSV file, then you cannot write the SQL queries to get the sum, min, average from the CSV file. Okay, so this particular example, the aggregate transformation can be very helpful in the scenarios where the source data is not the SQL server, however the source data is coming from a CSV file, Excel file or from any other source. So let's go to the BIDS. So this is my business intelligence development studio. So as we are going to deal with the data, so let's drag and drop a data flow task into the control flow window, and then double click data flow task to configure it. So as we are going to read data from a SQL server table, so we will be going to use the OLEDB source. Double click OLEDB source, make a new connection to the AdventureWorks database. My server name is Ahmed and the database name is AdventureWorks 2014. Click OK, and under the SQL command, let's simply copy and paste the SQL query from here to this particular location. So now we can see all the columns and data here. Click close and then click OK. Now we need to use the aggregate transformation. So aggregate, this is the first transformation, aggregate in the common. So just drag and drop the aggregate transformation into the data flow task, and then connect the OLEDB source with the blue data path to the aggregate transformation, and right click and edit the aggregate transformation. So now in the available input columns you can see all the columns from the source. So for example, for the bonus field we need to get the minimum value of the bonus. So simply click bonus, and then under the operation we need to change it to minimum. Okay, and then so we have changed the operation to minimum, and we have set the output alias to bonus as well. So in case we want to modify this value, maybe if you want to do like bonus min, so we can do that like like this. So we have changed the output column name for this particular operation as bonus min, and the operation will be minimum. And for the commission point, so we are going to sum up the value. So maybe we can say like commission sum, and then by default operation is sum as well, so let's leave it as it is. And then for the sales YTD, we want to do the average of the sales YTD field, so we need to change the operation as average. And for the sales last year, we want to get the max value from the sales last year, so we can change it to a maximum value. Alright, so we have changed the column names as a requirement, and we have set the operations. So simply click OK, and now let's write this particular data to a flat file. So simply drag and drop the flat file destination to the data flow task, and then double click flat file destination, Click new, and so the column, the file will be delimited file, and let's browse the file. So let's create our file here, aggregate.txt. Click OK, and then we want to put our column names in the first data row in the header. So let's tick this particular checkbox, and in the preview you can see the columns that are going to be written to the flat file destination. Click OK, and then you can click on the mappings to make sure that the columns from the source have been mapped with the columns with the destination, and click OK. So now if you execute this particular SSIS package, so total 17 records will be fetched from the source. However, just single record will be written to the destination, and that will be either the average, minimum or maximum value. Okay, so now you can see that total 17 records got fetched from the source. However, just one record got written to the destination file. So you can just open the aggregate file, and then you can see that for the bonus minimum value we have a value as 0. So you can verify that thing here as well, that the minimum value in the bonus field is 0. And then for the next thing, like for commission point, the value is 0.2. so actually it's a sum of all the commission point fields. Okay, and for the sales YTD it should be an average value. This is the average for the sales YTD, and then for the sales last year max, it's the maximum value 2396. So it's the maximum value for the sales YTD. So this is how we use the aggregate transformation in SSIS to perform any aggregate task. This aggregate transformation can be helpful in the case where, suppose if our data is coming from a CSV file or from an Excel file. So in that case, if you want to do some transformation, then for example, if you want to calculate the number of records as well, we want to do the count, so we can use the aggregate transformation. Thanks guys for watching the video, and if you like the video, then please click the like button and do subscribe to our channel to see more videos on SSIS and related technologies. Thank you so much.